Eminence, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
It's a pleasure.
You are seen as someone who is close to our Holy Father, Pope Francis. Can you speak to what the Holy Father's vision was for this synod, and how has this synod compared to last year's?
Well, maybe I'll start with the second. This year we are. Last year we were excited to be learning, meeting, expanding. This year we're working hard to come to practical conclusions, not so much about the mission itself, but about how to be a synodal church. In other words, the ways and means whereby we will be in a better position to carry out the mission that Christ entrusted to us.
Yeah, has there been much discussion on immigration at this synod, and within the framework of synodality, how can we as a church listen even more attentively to those caught up in that phenomenon?
Well, migration is obviously one of the big issues of the world, but it's by far not the only one. And it's important to keep remembering that migration is also a fact of human life. It's not a contemporary crisis, but something that we have been doing since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is that in reflecting on migration this year, we see in it a kind of parable of synodality. In other words, the mobility, the going together, and the seeking of you might say, a better place. This is what synodality is supposed to help us to do, that we would be in a better place to carry out Christ's mission. And so the migrants are not only our deep concern in terms of solidarity and support and evangelization, but they're also a sign of the mobility and the courage that the church needs.
Speaking of listening to our brothers and sisters on the peripheries, you've been doing quite a bit of travel as Cardinal and prefect. To name a few, South Sudan, the Amazon, Oceania. What are you hearing from our church on the margins?
Well, honestly, you'd have to ask me, I mean, which church? In other words, I don't think I can generalize. But I do think that I could say and want to say that our church on the margins is a hopeful church. The church on the margins faces enormous difficulties that would make our heads spin, but they're not lacking in hope. They're not lacking in resourcefulness, and they're not lacking in missionary creativity. So I would say as much as they win our concern and sympathy, they also win our admiration.
There's been discussion, we know, including in the various theological forums, looking at structures in the life of the church, authority, primacy, but also the relationship of the local church with the universal church. Within that framework of synodality, where do you see something like decentralization and structures?
Well, both decentralization and structures are both contemporary words,
Yes.
governance words. They're not part of our tradition, but it's all in aid, really, of authority. And it reminds us of what they said in the gospel about Jesus, that he had authority, unlike the scribes and Pharisees. And if you want to sum up the synod, we are seeking ways and means to assure that kind of authority so that the church will be able to carry out its mission and not be handicapped or distracted by sins and mistakes which, in fact, consume and eradicate authority.
We heard Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez. He reaffirmed Pope Francis's position against women's access to the diaconate, adding that the time is not yet ripe. But he stressed that there is a need for a greater role for women in the church. What does that look like?
Well, it looks like, I would say it looks like it already is. In other words, the problem is not finding women to carry out the mission. They're doing it already, and in many different ways, in many different parts of the world. But at this moment, I think we are recognizing that their way of doing mission has to be integrated with the more hierarchical and structural church, and that different forms of recognition, authority, formation, recompense, all these things are required so that women can discover the very different missions and ministries which they can carry out.
Yeah, one of the backdrops for this synod is a world in conflict. and what is needed at this moment, and what role is your dicastery for integral human development playing to help those who are caught up in this strife?
Well, again, on the second point, basically what we can do is to listen to and accompany the bishops in those areas of conflict, and see how they're doing, see what it is that they might need by way of help or encouragement, and share the news, the stories, the good practices with the rest of the church. On the broader question of a world in conflict, I think many of us are recognizing, experiencing that synodality would go a long way to helping make this world more peaceful, more human, more just, and finally more Christian. And so that encourages us. We're not just doing intra-church housekeeping. We are actually preparing effective and important proposals for the world community.
Pope Francis announced the creation of 21 new cardinals. You were elevated a cardinal yourself in 2019, I believe. As a cardinal, what is your advice to these cardinal elects as they prepare to be elevated to this new position?
My advice to them is to recognize that they're being, as you say, elevated or recognized because of their mission and ministry already. And that now, by being, you might say, publicly recognized and named, that this intensifies their mission. And especially the mission that all of us Christians have, which is to pray for and support the Holy Father. But the cardinals have a very special, explicit role to do that, to the point, as our red garment indicates, to giving our lives.
Yeah, the announcement was made that Pope Francis will be releasing a new encyclical this week, and it caught many by surprise. The topic that he's reflecting on is the Sacred Heart. What does it first tell us about Pope Francis, but also what are you looking forward to in an encyclical that is devoted to the Sacred Heart?
Well, one thing it tells you about Pope Francis is that he's a Jesuit, because we have a long-standing history of involvement and support and development of the devotion to the Sacred Heart.
Yep.
And it's a popular way of expressing the fundamental commitments of our faith, and especially the participation in the love, the mercy, the compassion of Christ for ourselves and for everyone. So it's a re-expression of the central message of the gospel in a symbolic way, in a practically, you might say, material or palpable way that helps to make the love of Christ more tangible, more visible, more, in that sense, comprehensible to people who might not read theological treatises.
Finally, Your Eminence, what do you think the legacy of the Synod on Synodality will be?
I very much hope that the legacy will be a more synodal church. In other words, we have tried to learn what could be the process by which the church could walk more effectively through history, exercising her mission. And we find that the way of doing that is basically to implement a Vatican II. And the central insight of Vatican II is that we are all enjoying equal dignity as Christians by our baptism, and that it is as the people of God that we walk together, and that people who are ordained or in authority or both are at the service of God's people, and that this kind of service needs to be refreshed and in a certain sense brought up to date, so that we can be moving more effectively, more flexibly, more generously to respond to the enormous challenges of our times and the great hunger and thirst of our people.
Yeah.
Cardinal Michael Czerny, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us during what I know is a busy week here in Rome.
Thank you.